wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
How can we be more sensitive to individuals with mental health challenges? And of course, how then would this then impact on the relationship that we will have with these individuals? This is Making It Last podcast, and I'm your host, Noreen Daly, and that is what we'll be talking about this time around. Now, with me, I have Basilia Barnaby Cuff, media practitioner, wife, mother, founder of the Sterling Music Awards, Jamaica's only national gospel awards show. We have Robert David Shaw, producer, friend to a lot, a young man that I've always loved having him around because he always has strong opinion, and those strong opinions usually make sense. He probably just didn't know that, but I'm affirming him right now. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we're talking about mental health, or highlighting that, because I really don't think it is something that as a society that we talk about enough. So it is something that will be dealt with over several episodes, and this is the first of several. Now, I have these two individuals because they've had some experience with individuals who've had mental health challenges. So, David and Basilia, how can we be sensitive to individuals with mental health challenges?
All right. For me, that can be a challenge for many. Having to deal with that personally, it wasn't that much of a challenge for me, because while at NCU, I did courses pertaining to mental health and so on. So I kind of hadn't got the idea as to how to deal with it and how to approach. May not get the full same idea how to deal with it, but how to approach it. But the biggest challenge was the person accepting that they have mental challenge issues. And that played out in my experience for a very long time. It took a couple of years, quite a few years, for my brother to accept that was the case with him. And then probably about 4 or 5 years later, that was when he started getting medication for it. As a brother to a brother, empathy was there from the start. Again, because of my background in school. But in other instances, I find that they stand to be the victim of ridicule, stigmatization, and that is simply because persons within the family do not understand mental health, and they tend to think it only affects certain people. Right? So that has been my experience with it. I don't know sure what Basila's was like.
I think especially in the Jamaican society or within the context of Jamaica, sometimes we think that somebody has a mental disorder or a mental problem only if they're walking on the road half naked, dirty, eating out of a garbage can. We don't realize that depression, chronic depression,
can easily segue into
easily segue into something much more serious. We don't realize that even for university students, not being able to handle the pressure of a new environment, adjusting to, a new type of schooling, being able to manage the workload. So many things can, account for persons having a mental breakdown. I have a cousin who several years ago, she's not Jamaican, but she lived with us for a while. And several years ago, she had a mental breakdown. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And at the time, I don't think her family members had paid enough attention to her to realize what was happening. Because it was obviously something that did not happen overnight. It was a series of things, but they were attributed to other things.
Okay.
Why you need to get some sleep, or why you sleeping so much? You're lazy, or you need to handle pressure a little bit better. Not realizing that she was literally just crumbling under the pressure, and she herself did not know that something was actually going wrong. So all this time, she is trying to huddle together and say, all right, let me try to get myself under control, not realizing that probably it was something out of her control. So she wasn't able to pinpoint or identify the problem. Others around her weren't able to either until she went right over the cliff. And I remember her coming back to Jamaica to live with us while she was diagnosed, because being in the US and, you know, the fast-paced life, nobody didn't have no time. It was either that or she was committed to a mental institution. But for my family, we felt like she needed to be around a little bit more love and a little bit more attention, instead of just being isolated and placed somewhere where she don't know anybody. Maybe we don't know if that could have pushed her
Even
further. You know, so she came and she was here with us for about 6 to 8 months. And while being on medication, getting a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of enjoying a lot of the simple things in life. She not have to worry about work. She's been working since she was probably 14, not having to worry about work, pay bills, pay for this, pay for that. Simple things like that she used to look forward to. Going outside, sitting on the tree, sitting on the tire, sitting in the swing. I mean, some simple things. And that, I think, helped with her recovery to a point where, as long as she was on her medication and she had somebody to talk to, because sometimes it's as simple as talking to somebody, it's as simple as just opening up and not keeping things bottled up inside. And for us, I think, because we didn't see her as somebody who had gone or, you know, our head no good again. We saw her as the same girl who grew up with us, who we love, who we just want to see get better. And of course, in the Jamaican context, people thought she was crazy. People thought that, you know, why not take on this problem because supposed to do something. And let me tell you, there were instances where she did things, didn't remember. For example, one time she pushed my brother out in front of a car. Like, she pushed him out in front of the car and I grabbed him out of the road. And it was after she did it, probably like 2 hours later, she realized what she did. It was almost as if because, you know, the disorder, sometimes it's almost as if it's an out-of-body experience. So she knew what was happening, but she had no control over her impulses. And I mean, other things like she walked on and we just walked behind her. You know, she walked on to make sure she's okay. We're just walking instead of having her in the house and tying her down for her to stay. We just walked with her to make sure that she was fine. A little distance behind because she wanted to be by herself. Okay. You know, in that little space because she felt trapped. You know, a lot of things go through a person's mind. So, although we didn't have any training like you did at NCU, I think at the root of it all, we love her and we just wanted to see her better.
Yeah.
You find that people, if as I said before, if we take the time off to understand what it really is and how people are affected by it, I think the stigma in Jamaica is not being addressed the way it needs to be addressed, and that is why you find that a lot more people are thinking deeper and deeper and deeper. There needs to be a national educational campaign when it comes to mental health. I know. You have government agencies, private sector agencies. They are trying to push that campaign, but we need more. We need more thrust behind it.
Yeah. I'm glad, and that is what definitely one of the reasons behind this conversation, because I've always thought, and it is something that I have even seen within church circles and just other circles, we spend so much attention talking about our physical health. Make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing that. But how many times do we stop to say, just as important as the physical, you need to pay attention to the mental.
I don't think enough attention is placed on it. And I remember once watching a TV program, because out of that experience, I have found myself, being a little bit more sensitive to individuals because sometimes you just don't know what they're going through, So even with my reactions to people based on how they behave or act, I'm a little bit more cautious because sometimes I know they may not say it, but sometimes I know that they're probably struggling with something much bigger than what is on the surface. I remember the psychiatrist, she was saying that she has persons who come to her like maybe once a month to just talk. We're talking about sane people. We're not talking about anybody who has any diagnosis. She says because that is a way of ensuring that they don't get to that place. So she says a lot of times we do things back way. So it's after now we have the problem, then we're seeking the help. She said, no, just like how you drink water so that you don't get dehydrated, you don't wait until you're dehydrated to go and drink the water. That is how we should treat mental health. And I thought about it and I said, you know what? I need to go find somebody to talk to. I'm not struggling with anything really, but just somebody to talk to, because you never know what another perspective can do
that is
for
true.
your life.
I can tell you one thing, and not a whole lot of people know this, and I'm sure when people hear this, they'll be surprised. There was a time when I literally thought I was going to lose my mind because of a situation that I was dealing with. And I have said to people that there's, and people have heard it before, there's a thin line between sanity and insanity. And what it is that might take you over the edge, David, or take you over the edge, Basilia, might not be what would do it for me. And it got to a point for me even years after when I got that close. And I remember I literally had to call a friend of mine overseas at the time to kind of talk me through. Because, I mean, I don't ever want to get to that point in my life again. But I also recognize that afterwards, I needed to get some counseling. Yeah. And I got the counseling to help me through getting closure to that particular issue. And that is one of the things that I want people to recognize, that if you feel physical pain or you're having some challenges, people will say to you, go to the doctor. What then, or why is it then so hard that if you think that you're having some emotional challenges, why you don't think you need to find a counselor?
Yeah.
Because for Jamaicans, the counseling thing is just that, the counseling thing. I don't bother with the counselor. Mad people go to counselors.
Mad people go to counselors.
This is what I'm saying. That campaign, it need a new thrust. Because as Basilia rightfully said, we need to start leading from in front. Don't wait until it has gone over the cliff, which is when you're going to try and start getting help. What more? The work environment can be a harsh environment. And we need to recognize that we spend about half of the day.
Half? More than half.
Because we're going, we're still at work.
Right?
Yes.
What I would strongly encourage is that we take that time to relax. Take that time to watch a movie that entertains.
Yeah.
Not a movie that necessarily bring about emotions, but ones that bring about laughter. Begin that conversation with that good friend or that best friend or that family member, whether it be online or in person. Right. Begin that conversation.
It helps.
Find that day, whether that evening or that morning or that afternoon, to just go somewhere. If you drive, take a drive with the family and just enjoy the breeze and then enjoy the stop at the little man who's selling jelly and cane and just begin a conversation. You will never know where that conversation can lead and how that would make you feel at the end of the day. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we spend so much time working and trying to make that money that we don't realize that we're going to dead left it or we're going mad left it if we don't take the time to take care of ourselves and not just buying nice clothes and eating right, but taking care of our mental health. Something as simple as going to the beach and just watching the waves. I mean, my husband and I and our daughter, we went out yesterday for the whole day, just doing some simple things. We went to the zoo. I mean, we were looking at the animal. Well, look for mongoose when we sit on the road every day, but it was so good. I could not believe how much I enjoyed it. And then we went to watch cricket, and then we went and we bought ice cream, and my husband and I were sitting looking at each other like, where was this all this time? We have spent for the past 10 years, my husband and I have been working in media, working 16, 18 hours a day. It's either work or sleep. And we made a decision that, we must be able to also live.
That's right.
And by living, it sometimes means that you have to kind of cut off some of the things that you're involved in, just so that you are able to take care of you. Because there's one thing I keep in mind, you know. Anybody can do what I do. They may not be able to do it as well.
That's right.
But anybody can do what I do. And if me drop down tomorrow or I'm lose a screw tomorrow, I shall be replaced. Yeah? So I have to take care of myself and my mental health.
The common expression, laughter is the best medicine. It can be synonymous with your way of life. Can determine your mental health.
Yeah.
So once you practice a good lifestyle, then you are nurturing your mental health.
And it's all about balance.
Yeah.
Balance is key, and I think that's something that we have lost grip on. Balance. We say we're balancing, you know, but I don't know what kind of balancing we're balancing, because this is the scale: work, social life down here, sleep below the social life, and whatever else, family time, everything else falls under. And we have to get to that place where we strike the balance. I saw a quote the other day. It says, everybody has life, but not everybody lives. And I said to myself, I need to live. I'm
I find myself in the former, in the first area of life, and I'm going to live. But for those who are challenged, who have family members with mental health, I would encourage them to start the conversation, start the therapy. You don't have to go to a doctor to begin the therapy. Begin it at home. As you said about your family member, start showing the love and the concern,
a little bit extra,
and the compassion and the empathy. Don't show pity. Show the empathy.
Right.
It goes a longer way for them, because you don't want to rob them of their independence and their confidence in self. You know, so begin the conversation.
And by beginning that conversation, we can get so creative as individuals. I mean, there's the internet, there's YouTube. Find some videos geared towards trying to address those. I mean, there's so many things. Sit. Tell your family member, let's watch this video. Because sometimes, you know, to be honest with you, especially if he's a man, you're not going to get him figure out how to know counselor, right?
Exactly.
Find something on YouTube. Find a favorite personality or something, or somebody who has addressed the topic before, and you can subtly find ways to try and reach them little by little, because sometimes they know that something is wrong, you know, but pride and the ego stands firm in the way. So we just have to find a way to, as you said, David, start the conversation, be wise about how you go about it, because you don't want to push them away, because pushing them away is only going to make it worse. So especially if it's somebody that you know and you know them well, then you will find the strategies, the necessary strategies that can be used. And when you can't figure it out, you get help to help them. So sometimes it's not necessarily taking them, you know, to get the help. You get the help and you help them.
Well,
good point.
We've started the conversation.
Yes, we have.
On mental health on this podcast, Making It Last. I'm your host, Noreen Daly. This conversation will continue. Until next time.
I loving you. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.